is that the young kids coming up, they know these, they're born with a smartphone in their hand.
Right.
But for some of the older generation, they're struggling with that. I can see them grappling.
Was he looking at me?
Were you great? You ain't alone. I'm telling you.
Look, and I claim it because I sure don't know how to do. I'm looking to certain kinds of things.
Right. And it's a challenge.
Right.
It's a challenge for most of them. So what we do is we take.
Creative mind.
Yeah, I do too. I have a lot of creative. I'm a tech geek though, so I have kind of a combination of both.
Okay.
But so what we do is that learning management system that I have in place. I will tell you right now, it's about $4,500 in class material curriculum that we have on our platform that we give away for free. And you have other Black organizations that will give you a pathway to learning and upward mobility like that, but they charge a lot of money for you to have access to those learning materials and things like that. We don't do that. We give that away for free. And I think, as I mentioned before, we have a basic level, and then we have a professional level. And that basic level, we basically give that away for free. It's $12 annual membership per year. And right now, during our soft launch, we're giving that away. We have a promo code. And so anyone that wants to join the network, you can get your we have a virtual chapter. So what we found is that a lot of times Black people, this is one of the areas that we struggle in. We don't network enough.
Right.
And so we put that on our platform.
But you know what? A lot of times people don't recognize the importance of networking. They think you're just going and socializing and having fun.
Oh, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to that.
All right.
I got the stats. So we know in 2022, there was $24 billion that was generated in the referral network marketing industry. And this is people exchanging, this is just people exchanging business. $24 billion. And so what we looked and we found is that of that $24 billion, the Black and brown communities was the least of that number. So what that showed us was we're just not doing it. We're not networking with ourselves. We're not networking with anyone.
Okay.
But that's a fundamental part of doing business. Just like that opens up other doors.
Right.
It segues in it. You have gatekeepers.
Exactly.
You have all these other things. And so what we have done is we've created, and one of the problems I have as a Black entrepreneur and businessman myself is that when I first started out, I loved the Xerox, and I went in to start my insurance agency. Okay. And what happened was I would join other organizations like BNI and Kiwanis and the Rotarian and things like that. And what usually happens is you would see that people would network with everyone else. They wouldn't network necessarily with some type of person of color. And so because what you got to understand, once again, it's economics. It's nothing personal that they have against me, but so they have to keep money.
It's a race thing.
It is. They keep that money in their community. So if they do business with me, that's taking money away from their community.
And you just make me think how things haven't changed in years, because I think about when my dad was living. He was a pediatrician, and it never clicked to me until I was pregnant. And I remember going to the doctor, and I said to my mother, I said, it threw me because I said, my pediatrician didn't deliver my babies. My OBGYN did the delivery. The obstetrician did that. But I remember as a child, my dad was delivering babies, and he was a pediatrician. I asked my mother, I said, how did that happen, that Daddy was delivering babies? Well, he was one of the few Black doctors around. The white doctors would not refer to him. And so he said, well, I'll fix that. And so he went back and got his obstetrics. And so he said, so he delivered and kept them. They stayed with him. But his colleagues, white physicians, would not refer the kids to him. Okay. So Blacks would bring their kids already there, but usually the obstetrician sends you to a pediatrician.
Right.
And so he said, I'll fix this. And that was how he did it. But I mean,
he stepped in and filled that role.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something my mother would say is, ain't nothing changed but the date on the calendar.
Exactly.
Because, you know, we still do.
And that's what I'm saying. That was
some of the same
back
things.
then. That was in the 50s.
But here's what you're going to learn
and
about.
60s.
This is what you're going to find out. If you're working a job at a company, say it's a white corporation, and you're a sales rep in that company, when you're going out to do business, they know that you represent that company. They'll give you business all day long. The minute you step out on
and you
your
represent
own,
yourself.
this is what happened to me when I left corporate and I started my own organization. You could see the wall came up. All of a sudden, it was like, that's a black, you know, he's a minority business owner. It changed. People that I had alliances that I thought was friends,
You find
that
out.
I was close to, it was like I was on the opposite side of the table at that point. When the minute I wanted to go into business for myself, and this is the part that I want to make with DNA, is because, you know, we have to have an umbrella where we can come together.
Yeah.
Because here's what you need to understand: when you are a black business owner, you got the world set against you. When you come out the gate, first of all, your competition is already ahead of you. They're already capitalized. They already have allegiances in place. They already got resources. They have all of that. What you need is you got to have a base. You need to have someone in there that's going to provide these systems to you, provide the support, and be able to connect you with others that's going to give you a leg up. So now you can be able to compete with these other companies that are out there. They're just not sitting around and going to allow you to market share. That's not what they're going to do. Everything in their power to keep you right, so that they can maintain the control over the markets.
Well, you know, and that is just still so true today. I mean, because I think back about when I was in office, and they kept giving no bid contracts. Well, the same contractors were getting them, and they would make things so huge that the smaller contractors they could compete, and they would put things in those contracts that were so unnecessary, but they were necessary to keep us out.
Exactly.
And so when I said we're not doing no bid contracts, we're going to make this so people from Flint, small, you know, local companies can get these bids.
Open source.
And I mean, and you know, I always talk about how I was proud of it, but it was 2016. You're in a black city, and it's the first time a black company has gotten a multi-million-dollar contract from the city of Flint.
I remember how much flack that was.
And they were mad because we got some.
They were hot.
Yeah,
they were hot over
even though they got contracts too.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like I only used that company. Right. But I said, doggone it, you're not going to have a crisis, and everybody else benefit economically off of off of what has happened to us. And so I wanted to make sure it was Flint people. I wanted to make sure people that looked like us had the opportunity to get those contracts. And then we expanded. And there was, believe me, there's always enough money to go around.
I know.
There's always enough. But I don't want to share with you. You know, I want the super size instead of the size.
Right. You know, it's about controlling the resources.
Yeah, and it's about power and control.
And controlling the resources.
Right.
Absolutely. So this is my other thing too. Is that with our organization is we have a focus on churches. And I think I mentioned that if you Google and you look at how many churches are closed since COVID. Because you got to remember, we couldn't congregate. You know, we couldn't get together. You know, the assembly of, they disbanded all of that. And then right after, we had this raging inflation that hadn't gone away. And so churches are reading from that, because what happened was, you know, a lot of the congregation had to retool, because when the economy was shut down, people lost jobs. They were out of work. They had to go back to school. They had to, all the stuff that happened. Churches have not recovered from that.
No, they haven't.
And so what we're saying is, we're telling these, you ought to see these black churches, they are struggling right now. So what we're telling them is that you can no longer afford to be just a place of worship anymore. You have to become a community center. Now, what happened under the Bush administration is that he had instituted this thing called faith-based funding. And so churches can apply for, you know, hot lunch programs, after school. They can do homeless shelters. They got just a whole, you know, myriad of programs that they can be able to bring into their church and get this fund. So what we do is we help set them up to become a 501c3, get their nonprofit, they're tax exempt, and then we show them how to tap those funds.
Okay.
And so now what we can do is on our platform, we have it where you can do a scheduler, where you can actually send out broadcasts and you can send messages. And so now once you have these programs in place, they can use the scheduler on our platform to be able to broadcast to everyone out in the community that you have these other programs now. Now you give people another reason to come and visit your church.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can be able to meet the spiritual needs, but you can also the physiological needs that people have.
Right.
You know, whether it's feeding or clothing, and that's what the churches are supposed to be there for. So we're saying you have to start embracing these other things that make that transition. So we have something for everybody. The small businesses we're trying to bolster, and then also that business in the box that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is also have nonprofits and churches become economic development arm in partnership with BNA.
Okay.
And by doing so, what it does, it will stimulate money not only for the business community, but it also will stimulate money because we have an affiliate program that when people are upgrading and moving up to the higher professional level membership, it actually extends money to that organization. So not only they're helping their community, they're also being able to build their organization, and we created an additional profit center. So it's a win on three fronts for those organizations, for churches, creating an additional profit center for them, connecting them with the community, bringing in additional programs for them, and same thing, we're doing the same thing for nonprofits. So it's much needed work that we're doing right now, and we're trying to get all hands on deck. And that's what I mean by when we're approaching some of these other politicians and things like that, we think we're going to be embraced, and then we're just seeing walls go up.
Right.
So, and that's really disappointing when I see that coming from our Black leaders.
It's disappointing, and it happens far too often.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be more of the norm. You know,
Yes.
and that's what we get. But you have a lot of people that are scared to speak up. You know, they're okay where they
Yeah.
are. They don't want to rock the boat. And when you talked about those that just want to keep the status quo, and that's what they want to do. If I get out and try to support